Okay, day 2 of the Romford Film Festival, celebrating 10 years of the Romford Film Festival, which is absolutely amazing. And we've just shown Michael Fausti's feature, Angel Lust. Do me a favour, let's go down the line. Tell us who each of you are and what your part was on the project.
Michael Fausti, writer-director.
Kemal Yildirim, cinematographer.
Susanna, and I played Marcella, the antagonist. Yes.
Rohaven, I play Ophelia.
Alex Nathan Woods, I played Lucy, Dracula of Ice-T.
So I want to start a little bit different here, and I'm going to ask indie filmmaking is pretty hard at the best of times. Why did you all want to be part of this industry? What inspires you to do it?
Wow.
Ooh.
Deep question.
Deep question. I suppose to express myself creatively. I've got stories to tell, and yeah, that's it really. I'm going to be spending the next remaining years of my life telling stories, so there you go, that's why.
I was good at nothing else. literally. Yeah, I was just always obsessed with film, ever since I was so small. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just to echo what you both said, I love telling stories. I love amazing characters. Creative teams are really exciting to be part of. And there's nothing quite like the immersive nature of film. It's got you.
That answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was better than mine.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of you. And it's the collaboration and the creating together. Creating it from just a vague idea into something tangible that we can actually watch. It's the most amazing thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of you as well. Yeah, I mean, as a child, to films and video games are my sort of great escape. I love them very much, and yeah, I just love it. I can't. It's as simple and complicated as that. Nothing more to say.
So this is kind of an obvious question, and I'm scared to ask it. But Michael, where did the initial concept for this film come from?
There's a very long story, but I'll give you the short answer. I'm really open to ideas, and normally any kind of sort of like narrative starts with, for me, a single idea or a single image. And it started with the idea of Ophelia drowning. And so I had this name just came to my head, Ophelia Danube, and so many of the early drafts of the script had a lot of references to water and rivers and stuff like that. And then I remembered a short story which I'd read many years ago by an American writer called Ambrose Bierce. And the short story is called An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. And it's a story about a man who is hung during the American Civil War, and as he's being hung over a bridge, the rope breaks. He falls into the river, starts swimming, and manages to escape. And he's being chased by these men who are trying to kill him. He almost gets to his house, and as he puts his hand on the door, the rope goes taunt, and you realise this has all been a fantasy as he's being hung.
It's an episode of The Twilight.
That's right, yeah, and it got
Zone.
remade as an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, the only French film in the whole of the Twilight Zone.
It's way before my time.
Yeah, sorry man, I'm old. So
we're all old here. So that was really the genesis of the idea, that kind of short story. And then I kind of thought, well, what would cause somebody to want to keep reliving their life over and over again? And the idea of a kind of, not so much a lost love, but a kind of love story about a woman who kind of really had not really laid her demons to rest. And really that's, it's Angel Lust, the story about a woman who's trying to put her demons to rest.
And once you've got your concept and you know what your film's going to be, how do you then start putting these wonderful people together, this fantastic team? How did you know who you wanted to be part of it? And how did you guys feel about getting involved? What was the selling point?
I mean, so Kemal and I have collaborated for a long time now. And so we kind of sort of really get each other, and so when we were talking about the visuals for Angel Lust, because we kind of share a sort of similar cinematic lexicon, it was quite easy for us. So we'd sort of say, look, I want this bit to look like this, and we were kind of sort of like sending back and forth images from our movies that we, our favourite movies that we like, And then from there, you then get into casting, and we'd already worked with both Ro and Alex before. And so, I mean, you're going to get a bit of a spoiler. Initially, Ro auditioned for the character of Celeste.
Okay.
But she sort of messaged me from her hotel room. Were you in Thailand or something?
No, I was in Singapore.
Singapore. And she sort of said, I am Ophelia Danube, but I have to play the part. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really see you as Ophelia Danube. Oh, right, okay. And we really put you through the mill, actually, because there were a lot of sort of like self-tapes and auditions. But when it came down to it, Ro just got the character instantly. And really, I now could never imagine anybody else playing her. Alex as well, you know, what a voice. And we had a lot of auditions for the character of Lucian. But it was kind of like, I know Alex. But actually, it just then came down to best person for the job. And the same for Susanna. I think Susanna, out of all of the roles, yours was the most subscribed. I think we had like 150 applicants for the role of Marcella. And we were talking about this earlier. We were talking about self-tapes and what you look for in a self-tape. And do you know what? Sometimes you can't really say what it is. It's something. And it's something you can't quite put your finger on. And in the case of Marcella, sorry, Susanna,
No.
you encapsulate the parts so well.
No.
They're interchangeable. It was just, so that's kind of how. I don't know if you want to ask everybody that question.
Well, from that point, you know who you want, and you've approached these people, but then we'll go back down the line, kind of whichever way you want to go. What was the selling point to jump in on this film?
You want me to go first, guys? For me, working with Fausti again was a no-brainer for me, because, like you said, the two of us have a kind of connection that we understand the way that each other works and the kind of stories that we want to tell. When I read the script, though, it blew me away. It genuinely blew me away. Michael's got this really unique way of, old school way of sending you a hard copy of the script. So I got it in the post, opened it, sat with whiskey, and read it. And I just read it. And I fell in love with the script straight away. And I knew, I rang him up straight away and said, we have to make this. And we have to make it as best as we can within our limited means, because we're obviously working on no budget. But I knew, I absolutely fell in love with the script as soon as I read it. And I've liked everything that Michael's written, but this one in particular, I absolutely fell in love with it.
Thank you.
I'm a sucker for a romance, so.
When I, actually it was the character completely that had me hooked. Reading the sort of brief sort of overview of Marcella, I could just read, the obvious sort of qualities she has, but then within that also there was a hint at sort of vulnerability, and it is essentially, a love story that is like the core running all the way through, and it's not just one character who experiences that, or two characters, it's all of the characters. And so that was what really hooked me. I was like, oh my God, I'd love to play this character. And then, on top of that, the team, sensational from the off. Not just in like the briefing notes before the auditions, but also the auditions themselves. There was not every single part of this process, from cast to crew, just gelled so beautifully together. It was truly collaborative. And that's what you find in indie projects, and that's the beauty of it. Making this vision come to life was really special. So that's what hooked me: the character, the plot, and then this incredible team.
Same for me. I have worked with this team before, and I knew what I was going to. I really enjoy working with you guys.
Thank you.
And the way we work together is sort of like it is collaborative, and it's very sort of we listen to each other, and if there's ideas, we're all open to each other's ideas, basically. And I really enjoy that. And then obviously when I read the script, I was, like Kem said, it was beautiful. Like I was hooked immediately. I think I read through it like 3 times and cried every time. Just messaged Mike. I was like, this is amazing. Please, yes, I want to do it. Like, no question. I will do it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, 100%. And the rest of the team as well. It's been amazing to be a part of this, really.
For me also, work with Mike. Yeah, I've had sort of two periods in my life doing this acting thing, and the second time was when lockdown came. Genius idea when no one's actually doing anything, but I did two things during that time. I did a lot of drunk Zoom quizzes with friends and their mothers, and the other thing I did was watch a lot of films. I was probably watching 2 or 3 a day, probably, and a lot of UK indie stuff. And during that time, there was a handful of UK indie directors that they've got a clear vision, a strong voice. I'd love to work with these people, and 3 of them were actually involved in this film. And I reached out to all of them at that time, and I saw Exit. In this case, it was Exit. I was like, man, yeah, whatever, yeah, I can be involved with Mike would be wonderful. And I was thrilled when he asked me to do for Burnt Flowers, and then with this, yeah, I was thrilled to be involved at all, let alone this character. Yeah, loved very much.
Thank
you.
So something that was mentioned a couple of times there, Kemal, you mentioned about working on a budget kind of thing, and you're all kind of talking about community. And I understand that when it comes to independent filmmaking, the goodwill of other people is paramount. One thing I did notice though, like I do my interviews sometimes in Screen 6. I've not been in Screen 6 this year. I can't go in Screen 6 this year. How important was it for somewhere like the Lumiere to let you go into Screen 6 and turn it into a non-sex club?
Do you want me to answer this one?
Well, yeah, but like, how important is the goodwill of others as well? But and also, how much fun was it making that?
Do you know what as an indie filmmaker, you are continually asking favours. You know, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? That sort of basically nobody is doing this because they think they're going to make a bundle of cash. And sort of support from the Lumiere, Spencer and Natalie. You know, we are just so grateful because it just works so well for us. And Spencer, I'll paraphrase him, taking out the bad language, he said, Screen 6, do what you want in there. And when somebody says that to you, it's kind of like, really? I'm a filmmaker.
That's dangerous.
You know? And so, yeah, I mean, it's extremely grateful to Spencer, so thank you. And yeah, we had great fun actually. We had a day in which we were in there kind of putting up the neon signs and things like that. And I've got to say a big thank you to Ron, my father-in-law, who had to go to our house and take ownership when the delivery man turned up with our fluorescent fetish signs. So yeah, thank you for that, Ron. But no, we're extremely grateful for any help that we get. And, you know, we can't do it without help. You know, we don't have the financial resources, and so therefore we're extremely humbled when anybody does help us.
Yeah, definitely. I'll echo that.
There's a lot of, I want to say there's a lot of love coming from you guys. This is a really cool, tight-knit team. You've all worked really well together to make a sensational film that we got to show today. Was there any moment on set, any time on set behind the scenes that like you will take away with you from this movie as like a learning experience that you won't forget? And I want something from each of you if possible.
That's a good question.
Do you want me to start? Or?
Well, nobody else is.
All right, okay. Oh man, do you know what? You learn from everything and you have to be reactive to everything. And I think we had a lot of challenges making this because we're filming outside. We're filming outside in sunshine. I'm going to say a big shout out as well, which I know isn't really answering your question. I'm going to say a big shout out to Den and Simon who made our gallows, because that was a learning experience in itself. Den, who actually helped make the gallows, he's actually the guy you see constructing the gallows in the film, so we gave him a nice little cameo there. But you learn something with every experience, don't you? So you kind of revisit things and you're always, what will I take away from it? A multitude of things, you know, and you kind of hone your craft. And one thing I'm kind of, you know, I always feel I could do better at is just working with actors. You know, you kind of learn more and more and you develop your skills as a director, you know, and I think that you always learn something from a movie. Anybody who's saying that they don't, you know, just wasn't paying attention, because you learn how to deal with time, budgets, people, but also kind of each actor has their own kind of rhythm and things that they respond to. And just even the pre-production process, you know, people talk about filmmaking. It's about 6 months of actually kind of to and fro between myself and Kem, and then the loneliness of writing this thing in the first place. And it's all of those stages that you learn something. You know, it's not just, you know, when you're on set, oh God, I wish, you know, we'd have, you know, brought a pair of pliers or something like that. It's kind of like, we always do bring a pair now. It's always a case of you learn from each stage, and when you're in the stage and you finish, you kind of go, right, next time I write, I'm going to try this. And it's the same for directing and post as well.
Yeah, for me, I mean, obviously, you know, like Mike said, every film is a learning curve. And I've been in the industry for like 20 odd years, you know, 25, I'm old. So I learn something new on every film. And if I stop learning, I'd probably stop making films. That's what I love about making films, you know. So definitely, but with this film in particular, the outside stuff was really, really difficult. Because it was not many, you'd think that was probably the easiest bit, but it's the bit that I couldn't control. And as a cinematographer, you want to be able to control every aspect of the lighting and the look of the film and all the rest of it. Whereas shooting outside, we had quite a lot of stuff outside, and we had very limited time to do some of that stuff. Like the gallows stuff in particular was quite tricky. Not tricky, but was the most complex for me to try and make sure we got the look right that I wanted, because we had a very specific look that we were going for. So yeah, I suppose that was a learning curve. It taught me how to work with the sun more than I have before.
Cool.
That's a good answer. Yeah, there is something actually that comes to mind. Yeah, as you both said, every project you work on, you learn something more about honing your craft. And something I definitely learned on this film was, well, it's something you know already, like intrinsically, but the emphasis and the vision from Mike was always about how are we communicating without words, how are we conveying our emotions here, and that was something that Ken was incredible with as well. He was always very, he emphasised where the camera will be, how close are we going to be, what we're going to pick up from your eyes, and the emphasis from the first day on set was the interplay of the eyes. So that was something that was so huge, I felt, running through the whole film actually, was how these characters are communicating without words, and also because we had so many amazing and generous scene partners, you're able to listen to each other and more feel the scene rather than, ideally, the truth is, you want to forget your lines. You want to know them so well that they're in your body, you forget your lines, and you are just feeling whatever it is you're feeling with the person opposite you, and that's the most beautiful thing. And there were so many moments I can recall, that were a huge learning experience of, oh, this feels so good. I've forgotten all my lines, and I'm just looking at this other person in front of me, and we're feeling what we're feeling. So yeah, that for me was a huge thing I will take from this project. Really formative, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I want to say similar to you. It's well, this is something I feel like I'm always working on, always learning in every project I do. The script will tell you one thing when you read it, and you will get images in your head, and you will picture how it's going to be, and it's never going to be like that. And when you're on set working with everyone, things will change. There will be different things happening than what you imagined, and like Susanna said, the energy might be different from what you pictured. There might be, a different chemistry. So you have to just kind of roll with the punches and learn to adapt to what's happening. But I think everyone on this project worked really well with that. I think we all kind of understood each other and worked really well together naturally, actually.
Yeah, reflecting similar sentiments. As cheesy as it sounds, like a pack of Cathedral City every day and moment on this was great. It was beautiful. I enjoyed it. I didn't have a bad day. I loved it. When you love it like that, even if it's hard work, it's just pleasure. It's joy. And tons of lessons learned in terms of working with all these people and seeing it, and everything is a big influence going forward in more ways than you can kind of consciously be aware of. And I'll reflect on everything, and lots of learning experience, but extremely happy with what we all did.
Thank you, man.
Michael, is there any intention of getting this band back together again?
Who knows? Yeah, no, of course. I mean, to be honest with you, it's one of those kind of things that when you work well with people, why wouldn't you want to work with them again? I mean, I'll be honest, we always kind of put our actors through it in that all of the people who are sitting, you know, up here and indeed in the audience tonight, we made them all audition. You know, even though we've had a sort of long working relationship with Ro and indeed sort of like Alex, everybody auditions because I kind of think that that's the fairest approach. But yeah, as a collaborative team, of course, you know, if something's working well, you would continue. And yeah, that might be your last question, so I won't preempt that question.
I'm going to throw it out to the audience first, but we will get there. Do we have any questions in the audience? I've got a couple of hands there.
If you ask a good question, you get a poster.
Yeah, well, one thing I loved most about this film was all the various lighting and colour effects throughout, such as the various shades of blue. My question is, how do you know which colour effects to use in the editing process?
That's a really good question because it actually starts before the editing process. It starts before we even filmed it. I'm going to get really boring now, but we kind of was working out what colour palette we wanted for each scene. So we wanted each scene to have a different look to it. So the 1922 scenes had this very kind of like green and sort of like orange sort of like, you know, palette to them. And we worked that all out in advance. And so we knew therefore that when we were going in to film the 1922 stuff, we were going to kind of like, you know, use these gels and we were going to kind of like costume certain people in certain ways. And so to sort of answer, to give you an abbreviated answer, we kind of planned it out in advance, and then when you get into post, you can kind of push that more, or sometimes you might even want to bring it down too much if it is there too much. But there was a conscious choice there, and really it kind of, we needed each kind of like historical period to look different. We didn't want them all to look the same, even though kind of say, you know, realistically there probably wasn't a lot of difference between 1782 and 1832 in terms of how it looked to everyday people. We wanted each distinct section to have its own look, you know, in even the 90s we knew that once we'd actually done a kind of recce of the cinema and we saw how much red and blue was in there, we were really going to lean into the red and blue, and so we then costumed our characters accordingly. So really the colour palette choice happens very early on. It's happening in kind of pre-production, and then really you're just kind of refining that on set and then just manipulating it as, you know, as seems appropriate within post. But that is a good question. You get a poster.
Can I just jump in as well? From the cinematography point of view, me and Mike had a very early conversation about how important the first scene was where she gets hanged and the sun that was hanging over her head and the images of the sun like flashing in her eyes. So a lot of the colour palette was actually determined from the spectrum of colour that comes from the sun that's flashing in her eyes. This is why every time she transitions from moment to moment, there's a bright light that comes in and out. She's either standing near a light or, you know, or there's a massive flash of a light because it's representing that flashing of sun that's going in her eyes at that moment of death. So we kind of played with that and then incorporated that because obviously we wanted each time period to look different, but we also wanted a synergy between the whole film. Yeah. So the film has a certain look and a style to it. So we kind of worked on those angles together way before we had that conversation as soon as I read the scripts, really, didn't we? I think. Yeah.
Because I think just picking up on a point that Kemal said, there is a danger sometimes where you've got time travel movies and they can feel very disjointed and a bit kind of, oh God, where are we going now? So we then had to kind of think, right, they need to be sort of clear demarcations, but at the same time there needs to be a kind of like, you know, significant joining of the scenes. And we kind of did it through a kind of mixture, as you said, the kind of like the flashes and thinking about where Ophelia would be placed.
Where she would be placed, yeah.
Thank you.
So my question is, what was the hardest prop to get your hands on?
Oh, God. The hardest prop to get our hands on. I mean, this is all down to our producer, Louise Nosbod, who's already rolling her eyes. I'm trying to think what was actually... I mean, there were a number of things within the script that are kind of named, you know. One of them was the... I mean, you don't even really see it that much in close-up, was the whiskey jug. Because these are one of these things that you don't see anymore. no longer do pubs have a jug on the bar that has got tap water in, for pretty obvious reasons, really. But for a long time, these jugs existed, and so it's probably not the most interesting answer, but the hardest thing to get was actually the whiskey jug, which Lucien pours the water into the whiskey for. A lot of the other stuff we just kind of accumulated along the line. So it's quite difficult in the UK to get hold of a lot of sort of religious ephemera because, you know, traditionally Protestants did not have statues of the Virgin Mary and things like that. But we go to Belgium fairly regularly, and it's quite easy to pick that kind of thing up. But yeah, I guess probably some of probably the whiskey jug was the hardest thing to get hold of. Some of the other props, which you may think might have been difficult to get hold of, like the cat o' nine tails, was actually quite easy online.
Anyone else?
One for me. What was the biggest challenge in terms of shooting of the entire film?
I'll hand it over to you, Kemal.
To be honest, each setup, and not each setup, but each particular scene or time period had its own challenges. I'd probably say the nightclub, simply because we were in a cinema, and originally in the script it was just a nightclub. But because we couldn't find the specific nightclub we wanted to film in, obviously then you guys helped us out by offering us a cinema, and we kind of incorporated that style of the cinema into the kind of look. So that was a bit tricky, wasn't it? Because obviously it's a great big space, so luckily we had lovely space, but it meant that I couldn't hang lights, or I couldn't do the usual stuff that I do when I'm lighting. So it was a bit more complicated in that sense. So I'd probably say the nightclub and the sun in the middle of Billericay, where we were shooting a gallows scene. But yeah, that was probably, for me, the most difficult challenge.
So I've got one last question, but before I do get to that, how did you score Lawrence Harvey for this?
We've had him loads of times, haven't we?
Yeah, to be honest, I just reached out to Lawrence. Lawrence is he's a great guy, he's a great supporter of ours. And we had him on board for both Vergessen, our segment for Video Shop Tells Terror, and also Burnt Flowers. And we just really loved working with Lawrence. I mean, despite his kind of sort of like quite stern demeanour, he's actually a real laugh.
Oh, he's great.
And so I just kind of sort of said to him, look, here's the scripts, do you want to do this? So he went, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. And no, he really threw himself into the role, and we had quite an extended conversation about the Open University, which I doubt there's anybody in this room who remembers what the Open University was, and kind of like these kind of like incredibly dull sort of tutorials that they would put on at 5 o'clock in the morning to kind of teach like television engineers how to use equipment, or kind of like these lectures on theoretical physics. And so that was the kind of idea behind the remote university, that sort of Ophelia is being forced to watch these dull tutorials. And then when we shot the, when he's playing Janus, you know, the other character that he plays, yeah, he really got into that. He really liked that. We've got a lot of outtakes of Lawrence improvising, which I'm sure one day we'll put on the Blu-ray. But yeah, no, to be honest, Lawrence is an absolute pleasure. He's always been extremely supportive of us. And yeah, no, I mean, Lawrence is an absolute gent. And as I say, it was just as easy as reaching out to him because we worked with him previously. And he's somebody I'd cheerfully work with again. He's an absolute diamond. Yeah.
So with that, you quickly, briefly mentioned a Blu-ray there.
Yeah.
What is the future for Angel Lust? We got to show it here today. Thank you again very much. We had an amazing audience for it. Are you planning further adventures of this movie? What happens with the movie past festivals? All that good stuff.
Yes, so it's doing its festival run at the moment. There's a number of festivals you have confirmed, which I can't say yet. We're under a bit of an embargo for that.
We don't like them anyway.
I knew you were going to say that. To be honest with you, yeah, there's a lot of screenings coming up for us. It's actually really exciting because you make these things in isolation, and then it's kind of like, are people going to get this? Are people going to respond to this? Are people going to be completely repelled by this? Are you going to kind of submit to all these festivals and just get knockbacks? But so far, and I can't say much, we are getting some really positive feedback. So it's. I think this is the second step on its journey. So it's early days, but it is beginning its film run, and the kind of sort of responses that we're getting back are extremely encouraging.
Further adventures?
Release.
Oh, releases. Right, so we've got Burnt Flowers that will be coming out on Blu-ray very soon. Let's get the plugs in. More plugs and B&Q. So we've got Burnt Flowers coming out on physical. Keep checking Fausti, our website at Fausti Films for this. I've done a director's cut of Vergessen, which I have colour graded. It's an extended version with a commentary. I've put an essay about Nazi exploitation film on there that I've also kind of recorded. Kemal and I have recorded documentaries about making of Burnt Flowers and Vergessen, and we're actually filming, as we speak tonight, a documentary about the making of Angel Lust, which will also appear on that Blu-ray. We self-fund and we self-release. This is how we fund our movies. You know, we sell stuff to make our films. So every time somebody buys a T-shirt from us, and these lovely T-shirts are available from the website. We've got a couple in the boot of the car if you want one. And this is how we do it. And really, you know, in terms of the sort of further adventures of Fausti Films and our sort of, you know, collaborators, that's it. You know, we're raising money for the next project, which I have written. I was actually working on it this morning. I've got an outline. I've got my 7 character profiles for the kind of sort of 7 leads in the film. Not 7 leads, 7 sort of like main characters. And this is it. You know, we were talking earlier about momentum, and it's about maintaining that momentum. When anybody ever asks the question, what's next? There should always be something next, you know. I'll kind of answer what's next for us in addition to what I've already listed. But, you know, the spirit of collaboration we were speaking about earlier. I've appeared in Kemal and Alex's film, Echoes of Him, which was kind of, you know, repaying a debt of honour, I would call it, because you know, these guys have helped us immensely. You know, in some cases they've waived their fees or just worked for expenses, and so therefore I in turn will support them. They were sort of very generous enough to ask me to actually play a role in Echoes of Him, which I'm still extremely flattered about, because I don't actually think I can act.
No, he's great.
It's
ridiculous.
You guys.
I'm going to finish up with, can I get a 2-word answer from each of you that describes the art of independent filmmaking?
Oh, Jesus.
Just
there you
2 words.
Just
Oh,
those
Jesus.
two. Those two.
Is that yours, oh Jesus?
It works.
Well, I'll give you one, collaboration.
That's great. Come back.
Yeah, come back to Kim.
I have got an answer, but it's not 2 words. It's just like a brief
You
little.
can have 3.
She can't.
3.
4.
What's the word? Okay, does anyone know the word for when you feel like most alive? That's the word.
Alive?
Alive, but like you feel very alive. You feel
Very alive? That's 2 words.
Okay, very alive. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't think of the word.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. It's a challenge. That's a good
Magical. I don't know.
It's a lovely word.
Fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Magic and Cal?
Yes. Fun magic.
Alex, you gonna go?
2 words, no, I didn't got much to be honest. Yes, please.
Jobbing actor. Beautifully savage, I'd say.
Oh, that's good. I wish I'd have thought that.
Because
Yeah, that's great.
It's really hard work being an independent filmmaker. And there's probably filmmakers in the audience now. It is such hard work being an independent filmmaker, because we don't have the backing to really, you know, really push our visions to the limit of what we could do. So we have to, you know, like people like Spencer and Natalie and you guys putting us up in the festival is a really, you know, it's a great thing for us, because it means that we get to meet other filmmakers and get an audience, you know, which is really, really important for us. But at the same time, it's so beautiful because you get to really, really, we get creative freedom that people that work in the massive budget films don't get. Because we can really tell the stories we want to tell, and we don't have to worry about someone's checkbook, apart from Mike's. And Lou's, obviously. So, you know, it's beautifully savage for me. That's how I would describe it.
As always,
Sorry, I just got my 2 words from Mikem. Creative freedom.
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. That's good.
I was going to say, as always, you ask him for 2 words, you get a monologue.
Oh, sorry, mate.
So, guys, thank
Tell
you.
us about it.
Thank you so much for letting us show this movie today, but most of all, thank you for being here and submitting to the festival. And can we get a round of applause for our panel?
Thank you, guys.